Welcome to The Healing Life. I'm Amanda. This podcast is for people committed to healing, not as a finish line, but as a way of living. Every episode, we talk honestly about what it actually looks like to keep choosing healing as life unfolds. When things get better, when they get harder, and when another layer shows up. Let's get into it. About 9 months ago, I became a parent to a tween and teen overnight. My husband and I are foster parents, and we'd done a little bit of more like respite foster care, so short-term foster care, before our kids moved in. But as we found out, the vibe with tweens and teens is very different than the vibe we'd experienced with much younger kids. And real talk, there can be a feeling of desperation as you try to parent someone you don't even know yet, who doesn't know you, who has their own baggage and trauma, particularly around parents, plus is biologically entering the stage where they want to start pulling away from parents or other authority figures in their lives. And it was funny and sad and sweet to realize that I've built a life where I'm not used to being treated poorly or disrespected. And anyone who has middle schoolers can tell you that that is a specific, how shall I say this, phase of childhood development that is not fun unless it's fun. There's an on or an off. Like, it's either some of the hardest shit you've ever handled, or they are just the goofiest, sweetest, most hysterically adorable, funny, amazing humans to be around. But in the not awesome moments, it was kind of like a shock to my system and a little unsettling to be in my body and feel and witness within myself what parenting these specific kids evoked in me. And I think this is true for all parents, even those of biological children. Our kids give us the opportunity to confront the kid in us who still has needs. And it didn't take long for me. The really tender wound that surfaced quite quickly after we got our kids was neglect and a sense of emotional abandonment. I grew up as one of 8 kids, and there was just never enough to go around. Never enough attention or affection. Sometimes there wasn't enough food, and definitely not enough parental nurture or tenderness. Plus, my parents were pretty abusive, and that home was filled with abuse and violence. So it just wasn't a safe place, and I never felt like I had a parent there looking out for me and taking care of me. So flash forward to suddenly having these 2 kids. As it turns out, middle schoolers have some big needs. The drama at school and with friends, like, that is real. The attitudes are real. The crazy schedule is real. The teen angst it's all true. Like, all the funny memes online, all the funny reels, it turns out they're pretty darn accurate. In fact, so one of our kids was already in the teen angst phase when they moved in, and several months later, the tween, nearing teenhood, started to develop angst. And we were sitting around the dinner table one night, and my husband and I were like, one at a time. Only one of you can have teen angst at a time. You need a teen angst baton, and you guys can hand it back and forth. And our younger kid thought that was funny and actually made a baton that was around for a while. But it is real, guys. Like, my goodness. And I think it's also been a little shocking to me because growing up in a cult, growing up in a very strict and abusive home environment, like, that wasn't really allowed. Like, we weren't allowed to have attitudes or opinions or anything other than like instant obedience and perfect respect toward our parents at all times. So finding myself kind of in this chaos of raising tweens and teens and everything that they've got going on that's so real and so important, something inside me panicked. And I started having this feeling like, oh my God, not again. I don't want to be abandoned again. I just started to matter to myself. And now those days are gone. I don't have time. And before you come at me with the self-care reminders, like, I do get that. I do. And Kyle and I are in a state now where we can do more of those things. But this was like having 2 toddlers in terms of the oversight and the time commitment involved for various reasons.
when the kids first moved in, we couldn't leave them alone for 30 seconds at a time. I'm not like that isn't hyperbole. From the moment they woke up until we dropped them off at school, and then from the moment we picked them up from school until the moment they fell asleep, we had to be there. One of us had to be there. And also, there's this piece where you're with foster kids, especially at their age, you're building a pathway of trust with them that, hey, I'm here for you. I'm present. I'm stable in your life. You matter. You're a priority. I'm going to take time for you. And that piece is really front loaded with foster kids. They're waiting to see who you are, who you're going to be to them, if you're one of the people who's going to stick around. And if you're one of the people who can tolerate their traumas and their behaviors. And I've never had a baby, so I can't speak to this with tons of confidence, but kind of based on conversations I've had with new parents of biological or adopted fostered infants, I imagine it kind of feels like the first year after you have your first baby, where you're still getting your feet under you in a major way and there's barely time to shower or sleep. And for me, I'm in a PhD program. Most nights I couldn't start working on my assignments until the kids were already in bed and asleep and like everything was settled. So we're talking like 9:30 p.m. and then I'd be up till 2 or 3 a.m. studying just to get back up at 7 a.m. and rinse and repeat. So it was a really, really intense time. And I definitely did not wash my hair enough through that time. So in a very practical sense, like I was experiencing abandonment of myself. And in addition to that, tweens and teens have some really big feelings that can take up all the air in a home. And then you add trauma on top of that. And I felt like I was back in the house I grew up in with no air and no space for me and no safety. And that was really dysregulating to me. And my brain and body kept going into survival mode. So I started working on this with a therapist and I started pausing when a kid was doing something that activated or dysregulated me. Instead of dealing with the kid immediately, I started pausing with them, putting a pin in it, and then looking inward and tending to little me who was freaking the fuck out. And I'd ask her what she needed and tell her I was there and I would protect her this time. And I would be the adult who made sure she had air and safety and space and protection. And what I discovered is that when that kid in me felt safe and calm, that she had in me the parent she needed, I could then re-engage with my kids in a less dysregulated way, like in the way I wanted to show up. And I still have rough days. I still get really dysregulated by stuff my kids do or don't do. But I focus on trying to find and address the pain inside myself first. And then I engage with my kids. And I've gone through a lot in the 9 months since we got our kids. I got an ADHD diagnosis, an OCD diagnosis. I've been having medical issues. I wrapped up the second year of my PhD studies. I'm working toward my comprehensive exam that's coming up later this year. Like I've just had a lot going on and it has been legitimately rough. And becoming a parent in the midst of a PhD program and all of those things, like it was the timing that worked long term for our family, not the timing that worked maybe the best right in the moment, but also we got our kids. And I wouldn't, now I'm going to get emotional. They're worth studying from 9:30 p.m. to 3 a.m. for. Like, the timing's been hard, but they're my family, and I'm glad scheduling didn't make us miss out on them. And I think something I've come to realize through the experience of being a mom to two kids is that we're all parents, even if we don't have small humans running around. We're all parents to the younger pieces of ourselves that are still healing, or maybe haven't even begun healing yet. With my therapist's guidance, I've gone back and found the younger pieces of me. The 5-year-old who is just delightful and funny and sweet, and all she needs is to be loved and to feel safe. And then there's the 14-year-old who, for the longest time, just couldn't stop screaming her pain. And she's doing better now. I've spent a lot of time sitting with that part of myself and just letting her rage, because she has every right to. And I think sitting with her has made me better at sitting with my kids. And then there was the young college-age woman who was alone and without family support and really scared, but so fucking determined to build a better life for herself. And I've even spent time with the 30-year-old version of me, freshly divorced, but just so committed to getting through that as a better person. And I'm really grateful for the investment I made in myself at that time, because sitting with 30-year-old me, who had a little more space and air in her life at that time, as much as I try to show up for that part of myself, I think I learn from that part of myself. And I'm reminded of important things by that part of myself. But the one consistent thing about all of these pieces of myself is that they all needed a mom. They all desperately needed a mom. They all desperately needed a parent who would love them and protect them and do anything for them. And now that's me, current me, with all the skills and resources and autonomy that I have now that I didn't always have then. I can give all of those pieces of me what they need to feel safe and seen and loved. And I can make them feel safe with my presence and my commitment to growth and healing and my commitment to caring for all of the pieces of myself, including who I am currently. And I can comfort the pieces of myself with the knowledge that someone has their back this time, and that someone is me. And I'm a really good person for that job. So while parenting small humans is a sacred duty, and any of us who have small humans should take it very seriously, I believe parenting ourselves is the sacred duty that allows us to show up for the small humans in our lives to the best of our ability. And when my kids do or don't do something and I get activated or dysregulated, I'm getting better at working the muscle that leans into myself first, that tends to myself first, so that I can feel safe enough in myself to show up in my life the way I want to. And I'm not perfect. I don't always get it right, but holy shit, this is what I wish my mom had done for me. And I tell my kids that we are all cycle breakers in our little family. Me, my husband, them, each of us has a past. And my hope is that my husband and I can set the example for our kids of tending to our own wounds so that we don't pass them down to the next generation. Parenting is one of the hardest things I've done in my life. And less of that is about the actual kids and more about the work I've done on myself to be the kind of mom I want to be, the kind of mom I wish I'd had, the kind of mom my kids deserve. I think it's also some of the most rewarding work I've done, as hard as it is. In incoming episodes, I'm going to share more about this journey, the infertility, the surrogacy that fell through, fostering, and the road to having a family I finally feel like I'm part of for the first time in my life. But in the meantime, if you are also someone who has wounds within you, who has younger pieces of yourself that desperately needed love or safety, protection, comfort, and you didn't get it from your parents or the important adults in your life, I hope you feel less alone after listening to this. I'm right there with you. I hope you feel seen. I hope you feel validated and encouraged. I hope it helps to know that there are more people out there working through the same stuff, whether you're parenting yourself or parenting yourself and small humans.
Thanks for spending this time with me. Take what you need, leave the rest, and keep moving in the direction of your healing. If this episode resonated, share it with someone who needs it. That's how we all find each other. Subscribe to The Healing Life wherever you listen, and I'll see you in the next episode as the journey continues.